I have sat across too many kitchen tables listening to the same quiet worry that your blood sugar shoots up after what felt like a careful meal, and then your energy drops like a stone, and your head feels foggy, and you start wondering what else you are missing. Here is the twist that most people overlook. The very blandness that seems safe can work against you, while a whisper of heat from 2 everyday spices may help your body handle that meal more gracefully within minutes. Before you scroll away, try this simple start today: a pinch of gentle heat folded into what you already eat, and a warm golden sip that settles the stomach while you prepare the rest of your plate. I am not selling miracles, and I would never ask you to gamble with your health. I am offering a small adjustment that I have watched patients use when the usual advice felt too heavy. There is a reason this makes sense. Compounds found in common spicy seasonings can nudge digestion, influence how quickly food leaves the stomach, and even affect how full you feel. Nutrition teams at major American hospitals and public health agencies have long emphasized that simple kitchen habits matter for after-meal glucose, and these 2 flavors happen to be practical ways to test that truth in your own life. The risk you are facing is not abstract. Repeated after meal, spikes wear on the lining of your blood vessels and ask your pancreas to sprint when it is already tired, which is why you feel that drained and jittery mix after lunch. The good news is you do not need to overhaul your pantry to push in a kinder direction. Begin with what your stomach will accept. If you have a history of heartburn or a sensitive gut, use the smallest pinch and pair it with food rather than taking it on an empty stomach. Notice how your body responds over a few meals. That is the clinical approach I trust. Slow, safe, and specific to you. Here is how I coach someone on a busy weekday. Warm a simple vegetable soup and stir in the lightest sprinkle of a red kitchen staple until you feel only a comfortable glow rather than a burn. That gentle warmth wakes up flavor without adding sugar or strange ingredients. And many people tell me they feel less heavy after eating. While the soup simmers, set a mug with a golden note on the counter, so you remember to finish the meal with something soothing that also plays well with digestion. If you are wondering whether any of this holds water beyond anecdotes, you are right to ask. Research groups studying food and metabolism have reported that certain spicy compounds can support satiety signals, encourage better circulation to the gut, and modestly influence the after-meal glucose curve. I share that not to impress you with jargon, but to remind you that simple can still be serious. The advantage of this approach is its simplicity, its low cost, and the fact that you can try it without rearranging your life. The drawback is equally honest. It is not for everyone, and it is not a free pass to ignore your medicines or your overall eating pattern. That is why I start with a plan that respects your limits. A pinch in a bowl you already love, a warm golden cup you can tolerate, a short walk after dinner, if your joints allow. Most of us were told that the only path forward is more restriction and more fear. I have learned that curious, gentle experiments often work better. Stay with me, and I will show you exactly how to put these 2 flavors to work, so your next plate feels kinder, and the hour after you eat finally feels like your day again. I still remember a man in his late 60s who sat across from me with a look of defeat on his face. He had followed every piece of advice he had been given, and yet an hour after eating his lunch, his meter showed a blood sugar that jumped higher than he expected, and the fatigue that came with it was almost unbearable. He told me it felt as if food was no longer his friend but his enemy, and that no matter how careful he was, he could not escape the sudden wave of exhaustion and unease. If you have ever felt the same, you know how discouraging it can be to lose trust in your own plate. The hidden danger here is not just the number on the screen, but the silent wear on your vessels and the constant demand on a pancreas that has already worked hard for decades. That is why so many people feel a blend of weakness and anxiety after what should have been a nourishing meal. Studies from American health institutes confirm that repeated post-meal spikes are linked to complications in the eyes, the kidneys, and the heart. Yet very few people are told that these spikes can happen even with foods they thought were safe. The strength of this moment is that it names the problem clearly and gives you permission to admit that it is happening. The weakness is that if we stop here, it sounds like despair. I want you to know that despair is not the end of the story. Inside the same kitchen where you feel betrayed are tools that can shift the way your body handles food. I have seen it too many times to doubt it. By adding the right touch at the right time, you can change the story of what happens after your next meal. Stay with me because in a moment, I will walk you into those simple tools that cost almost nothing and yet can turn a draining afternoon into one you can actually enjoy. I often tell my patients that the little red powder sitting quietly in the spice rack can change how they feel after a meal in ways they never imagined. Cayenne pepper is not about setting your mouth on fire. It is about a gentle inner warmth that can ease digestion, spark circulation, and leave you feeling lighter instead of weighed down. I remember sprinkling a small pinch into a simple bowl of vegetable soup for a man who always complained of heaviness after lunch. He later told me that for the first time in months, he could finish his meal and still have the energy to take a short walk. That is the kind of everyday change that excites me. Scientists have studied the compound capsaicin found in cayenne and noted its ability to nudge the stomach to empty a bit faster and to trigger signals of fullness so you do not overeat. American nutrition experts point out that modest use may also support blood flow, especially to the hands and feet that so many people with diabetes describe as cold and numb. The strength of cayenne is its simplicity, its cost, and its versatility. You can stir it into soups, fold it into eggs, or dust it lightly over roasted vegetables. The weakness is equally real. Too much can irritate the stomach or cause burning discomfort. And for those with reflux, even a small excess can be unpleasant. That is why I always stress moderation. A whisper is enough. When used this way, it becomes less of a punishment and more of a comfort. It adds flavor without adding sugar. It wakes up a meal without heavy sauces, and it gives you a lift without caffeine. The beauty of this spice is that it allows you to test a supportive tool right in your own kitchen without needing new prescriptions or expensive supplements. Try it thoughtfully, and you may discover that the heaviness that follows your meals begins to fade into something you can manage more gracefully. What I love about cayenne is that it does not ask you to overhaul your cooking. It slips into your daily life in ways that feel natural and almost invisible. I once encouraged a woman in her 70s who struggled with cold hands and sluggish afternoons to add a quiet sprinkle of cayenne to her soup each day. After several weeks, she told me her fingers no longer felt like ice, and she could knit again in the evenings without stopping to warm her hands. That kind of gentle circulation boost is what makes this spice worth keeping close. I have also seen people discover that a pinch in scrambled eggs makes mornings less of a battle and more of a beginning. A touch on roasted vegetables, or mixed with a handful of nuts, turns an ordinary snack into something satisfying enough to keep sugar cravings at bay. Even fruit can take on new life when dusted with just the lightest hint of spice. Research notes that these small doses build habits that support satiety and steady energy. The strength of using cayenne this way is its flexibility. It adapts to soups, eggs, vegetables, snacks, even warm drinks. The drawback is that you must know your own limits, because for some, the stomach does not tolerate much. That is why I remind patients to start small and listen to their body over time. Too much too fast can undo the comfort you are aiming for. The longer you use it carefully, the more it feels like a quiet companion in your kitchen, a tool that brings warmth without fear. For seniors especially, that steady sense of energy and comfort can turn each day from heavy to hopeful. The science is clear enough to support its place, but the real proof is in the lived experience of people who find themselves walking a bit more easily, feeling a bit more awake, and even enjoying their food again. I invite you to think of cayenne not as a fiery dare, but as a gentle ember glowing in the background of your meals. It is not the only ember, though, and in a moment, I will introduce you to another golden spice that offers its own steady light. After watching how a single pinch of cayenne could make such a difference for my patients, I began inviting them to take on a very simple challenge. I would say try this for 1 week. Add the smallest sprinkle of cayenne to one meal each day, and then pay attention to what happens. Notice not just your numbers, but your energy in the afternoon, the way your stomach feels, the ease of getting up from your chair. I had a gentleman in his early 70s who agreed to try. He came back after 7 days and told me he was surprised by how much lighter his evenings felt and how his usual craving for sweets after dinner had eased. That kind of change is not about willpower. It is about giving your body a nudge in the right direction. The strength of this little challenge is its simplicity. It costs almost nothing. It does not demand extra time, and it turns your own kitchen into a place of quiet discovery. The weakness is that if you expect fireworks in a single day, you might miss the slow, steady benefit. That is why I ask you to treat it as an experiment and not a test. If by the end of the week you notice even a small difference in how you feel, that is a victory worth keeping. I encourage you to join me in this. Take 1 week, 1 pinch a day, and write down what you notice. Then share it. Your story may be the encouragement someone else needs to keep going. Remember, this is not about perfection, but about learning what your body responds to. And while cayenne is a powerful start, it is not the only spice with such hidden strength. There is another golden one I will tell you about next, that has carried families for generations, and may be exactly what you need to steady your steps and soften your mornings. When I first introduce turmeric to someone who has never tried it before, I often see a doubtful look. They expect something strange or bitter. Yet the surprise is that this golden powder blends so quietly into the foods they already love. I remember suggesting it to a woman in her mid-60s who dreaded the stiffness in her knees every morning. She stirred a pinch into her chicken soup and later told me that the warm color alone made the meal feel more inviting and the gentle flavor felt comforting rather than foreign. After several weeks, she noticed that climbing her porch steps in the morning was less of a struggle. That is the kind of everyday relief that makes this spice precious. Scientists studying curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, note its ability to support the body in managing inflammation, which is one reason joints may feel more mobile and digestion more at ease. American health agencies often highlight turmeric as one of those traditional ingredients with modern support from research. The strength of turmeric is that it offers both visual and physical comfort. It brightens food with its golden glow, and it soothes the body with its quiet effect. The weakness is that if you expect it to act like a painkiller, you will be disappointed. Its gift is subtle and cumulative, not immediate. That is why I tell patients to think of turmeric as a steady companion rather than a quick fix. Start with soups or eggs, or even a warm drink in the evening, and let your body feel its way into the routine. Over time, it becomes less about adding a spice and more about welcoming a small ritual of comfort into your day. And turmeric has more to offer than easing stiff joints. In the next moments, I will show you how it can lift even the simplest meal and make it feel nourishing in more ways than one. What often surprises people is how easily turmeric slips into their everyday meals. I have watched patients smile as their plain rice turned bright yellow with only a pinch added to the pot. Suddenly, the plate looked alive, and they felt more inclined to eat slowly and enjoy it. A gentleman once told me that roasting carrots with a dusting of turmeric gave them a depth of flavor that made him forget the salt shaker he usually reached for. That is the quiet strength of this spice. It gives satisfaction without extra sodium, and in doing so supports the heart as well as the taste buds. In the morning, you can stir a little into scrambled eggs and find that the golden color makes breakfast feel warm and full of promise. In the evening, you can blend it into warm milk with a touch of honey and feel your shoulders drop as your body settles for rest. I have seen people add it to smoothies with bananas or mangoes, and they marvel that the flavor barely stands out, yet the glow remains. The science supports these impressions. Nutrition researchers note that turmeric can help people reduce their dependence on added salt, and that its gentle compounds may aid digestion when taken with meals. The strength here is versatility. You do not need to change your menu to invite turmeric in. The weakness is that if you add too much, the flavor can become earthy and overpowering, which is why I remind patients to use only a pinch at a time. Over weeks, that pinch becomes a habit, and habits are what carry health forward. For seniors who often find meals repetitive, turmeric can restore a sense of novelty and joy to the table. Think of it not only as a spice, but as a spark that brightens your food and your day. And yet, turmeric is more than an ingredient. It is also a reminder of connection. In the final part, I will show you how a simple golden powder can become part of a larger story of community and shared strength. As I look back on the stories I have shared with you, it strikes me how often real change begins, not with a new prescription, but with a quiet choice made at the kitchen table. The man who thought food had betrayed him found relief in the gentle heat of cayenne. The woman who dreaded her morning steps found comfort in the golden glow of turmeric. These are not miracles. They are reminders that the body responds when we give it steady support. American research continues to show that spices long trusted by families can play a role in blood sugar balance, digestion, and joint comfort. Yet what matters even more is the lived experience of people like you who discover that life can feel a little lighter one meal at a time. The strength of this ending is that it ties together the threads of warmth, flavor, and trust. The weakness would be if you simply nod and do nothing. That is why I urge you to take action. Begin with 1 pinch of red, 1 pinch of gold, and notice how your afternoons feel, how your evenings rest, how your mornings begin. Write it down. Share it with someone you care about. When you tell your story, you not only claim your own health, but you light a path for another. I believe that health is not a solo journey. It is a shared table where each of us brings what we have learned. Cayenne and turmeric are not just spices. They are small emblems of resilience and hope. Let them remind you that you are not powerless. You hold in your hands the tools to change how you feel day by day. And as you do, remember that your story matters. Tell it, live it, pass it on. Together we are stronger, and together we can turn simple meals into moments of healing.